Hey guys, Chinamen here. We're back with another episode back with another episode for our IPL review. We did an IPL preview. Now we're gonna do a review. It's been a very interesting IPL, a very condensed IPL, obviously later than usual. But we're just gonna go through all the teams, and just how we think they've performed this year as opposed to where we predicted them to perform. Um, we're also going to look ahead to next year's IPL, which is actually in less than 6 months, weirdly. And which with we're looking at a new mega auction with possibly two new teams as well. We're looking at which three players each team would look to retain to be the core of their team for next year, which they can then build around.
That's good.
And we're also going to pick a player that we think performed above expectations and also well below expectations for each team.
Yep. So we said we alphabetical order. I think that makes Chennai first.
Yep.
Okay, Chennai Super Kings. Well, let's start off with the rising star and the disappointment. I think my rising star for Chennai this year is actually going to be Ruturaj Gaikwad, the opener.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
I'm going to go for it. I think
see
the
it.
way
I read
he's
it.
playing at the end of the season, I mean, it's not much to choose from for Chennai. They're not that good. Even though they managed to get to 6 wins, they feel like they've been the worst team despite not finishing last. But I think Gaikwad showed some promise in his last 3 or 4 games, replacing Watson up at the top of the order. That I think he can be useful in the future for an IPL team.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily. My player is a rising star, but Sam Curran, arguably.
Yep.
Just because last year there was a large price tag next to his name and he didn't really perform, but this year I really think he came into his own. Like bowling at the top, I think he did an excellent job, and obviously he became a floater this year. Well, he's always been a floater, but I feel like he batted ahead of Jadeja and scored a few handy runs, which is always good. Yeah, I think overall he's performed extremely well.
Yeah, I think they really try to milk him. Like he played ahead of Bravo and played ahead of other guys, and they put him all over the batting, all over bowling.
Well, to be fair, I feel like he was just thrown in at the start because Bravo was injured, so he was just a pure replacement for Bravo. But then he started performing, so I guess you can't really drop someone who's performing.
I also put Gaikwad, Ruturaj Gaikwad. I actually had him in my fantasy team the whole tournament. He was on my bench the whole time. I think he looked pretty good at the end, and I think he solves a good thing for them because Watson retired, so will be their go-to opener.
Yep.
Essentially.
The biggest disappointment for Chennai. Now, there's a lot of good options here, and I've been struggling. I picked a player who I don't think other people might have gone for. But I think, as opposed to how everyone expected them to play this season, I think the biggest disappointment for Chennai has been Imran Tahir.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I think like he was pretty close to the team of the tournament last year, if not in it. He got a lot of wickets, and he just hasn't been playing. And I'm not sure if that's an unfair.
Apparently, it's because of the conditions. Apparently, the conditions don't suit.
Maybe. Yeah, it's true.
That sort of
I
bowling.
didn't get to play at home where they can play their 3 spinners and bowl 12 overs.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like Dubai isn't horrible for spin. And other spinners have had a lot of success, Chahal and Chakravarti in particular. So I'd say Tahir's been the biggest disappointment for Chennai. How about you, Arjun?
Well, I think the actual most disappointing player would be Kedar Jadhav.
That's the same.
Like he's so bad now. It's just he's declined very fast. But I'm actually going to say that their most disappointing player was MS Dhoni. Been a gun for them forever, really, and averages above 50, I think. Usually, this season he barely get going. Only hit 7 sixes. Strike rate wasn't good at all. Last year there were times where he just bailed them out of nowhere, and he did not look like doing that at all. So he's my most disappointing player for them.
I feel like majority of their wins came from either Watson or Duplessis scoring runs, and then Curran at the end.
Yeah.
That's just and a bit of Jadeja's batting, but apart from that, there wasn't any sort of consistency. But I'm with Arjun. I think Jadhav and Dhoni were the most disappointing players for Chennai.
That's fair.
Overall, I'd say that most of the team performed below average, but those two particularly come to mind.
I was just
They
gonna
only
say,
had one or two players that were carrying the team all season. I'd say. Well, let's talk about it. So the three players you'd keep to base their core around next year. I've gone for Faf du Plessis. Despite he's getting a bit old, but he certainly was so crucial in the batting this year, especially at the beginning. I've gone for Deepak Chahar. Consistently gets wickets. He always usually bowls 3 overs in the power play, gets them off to a great start almost always. Just a solid bowler, always just seems to be pretty economical and get wickets. And I've gone for Sam Curran as the third. I think has had a great season. He's been a really good all-rounder.
So, do we have any idea where the next IPL is playing? Because that could be a huge factor.
they want it in India. They want all cricket next year in India.
So let's say so you're going to still choose those three players?
I'm going to choose those three either way. Yep.
Okay, cool.
So you're gonna not have Dhoni.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the best thing for Chennai would be to not. I mean, who's going to bid for Dhoni in the first place?
Well, I'm gonna keep Dhoni because I think they will keep him. And
Okay.
that he said
Okay.
that he's gonna play next year.
He's just letting down his team at that point, sure.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have Dhoni and Faf du Plessis. Yeah. I think he's their best international, definitely. He could even be their next captain, I reckon. The third spot's very hard. I've even heard people say they'll go Suresh Raina, even though he didn't even play.
I mean, why not?
Just because of his record.
Other than Dhoni.
Because like they just always have those Dhoni and Raina. But I'm gonna go Sam Curran. Even though you could argue there wouldn't be a lot of interest from other teams and they could get him, but I think they'll want to make sure they have him because he's young as well.
Yep. So I'm the same with internationals. So du Plessis and Curran for sure. But I'd keep Jadeja.
Yep.
Just because he does all three really well, all three skills really, really well. I mean, he can win the game in all three of those. So I wouldn't see any reason why you wouldn't want to keep him.
Yeah.
Actually,
I suppose he's only like 31 or something, isn't he?
Yeah.
I had him as one of my 2 right to match players. So I mean, the right to match, just to explain to the listeners, it means that in the IPL auction, twice each team gets to choose 2 players, and no matter what the bid is for that player that wins, they can match it and take the player for that price. So I've gone for Jadeja and Gaikwad as my 2 right to match players.
exactly the same. I think they'll definitely want to get Gaikwad. Right?
Yeah, definitely Gaikwad. I'm just trying to think. Because if it's in India, you probably want Imran Tahir, even though he was disappointing, because he is quality, and
He's
he
never
is.
going to come back.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
If he does play,
Might retire soon. You never know as well.
yeah. Well, is the auction? Is this thing going to happen every year, or is it for the next 2 seasons?
For the next
Just
one.
whenever they have like new teams, sort of, they do it.
Yeah.
Like when
So if we assume that, okay, so we can't
Probably
assume that there won't be. Who else?
He
I
has
think yeah,
played
Deepak
42.
Chahar just at the top
Yeah.
with the new ball.
Chahar, yeah.
I was just gonna say, should we also like compare them to how we said we thought they would go?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
I think all of us predicted Chennai to be borderline playoffs.
yeah.
We all thought their batting was a bit meh, and the bowling was quite strong.
I didn't realize before we made the predictions they've never finished outside the top 4. This is their first time.
Yeah.
Crazy. This is an amazingly successful team.
I think Dhoni had a large played a part in that. He's been he banged it every season apart from this one. I feel like.
Okay.
More banged relatively.
Like the first time he did bad, it's the first time the team did bad. Is that what you think?
Yeah, that's the key thing. And also, you can say the same thing with Rana, just not being there.
Yeah, true.
Arguably Harbhajan as well. He wasn't there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, Chennai finished 7th. I predicted them to come 5th. I thought they'd have players that will be able to win games for them, but overall they won't be consistent enough. I think that's been about right. They've had players that can win games for them. They finished a bit lower than I thought, but they'd find a way to win 6 games, and it's just about, I think, what everyone expected. I don't know where you guys predicted them. Do you know?
I think that we should clear up. The predictions are like very, very close. So it's kind of harsh to judge teams based on where they finished.
Yeah, I mean, 3rd to 8th have finished 2 points apart, so it's our predictions are almost irrelevant except for maybe the top 2, just because it's all so close.
But just on feeling and how the games went, you felt like Chennai were one of the worst teams, if not the worst.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also thought that with Hyderabad and they made the qualifier. So
yeah.
So we should move on. Next team, Delhi.
Yeah.
Delhi. Okay. I'll start off with my rising star for Delhi. I've gone for Enrique Nortia. I think he's had a very impressive season. He's bowled very fast and just really well, actually. And it's sort of come out of nowhere. I don't think anyone really expected Nortia to be a starting bowler for Delhi, let alone going this well. I think he's just had a fantastic season. And yeah, I think he's my rising star.
Yeah, I'm on the fence between Nortje and Stoinis, arguably, because I don't know. In 2020, Stoinis has got a majority of his runs at the top, but I think he kind of made that middle order role in that Delhi team his own. And well, he didn't really bowl in the Big Bash last year, but this year, amongst better batters in the IPL, I thought he bowled quite decently.
But really well.
With the bat, he certainly contradicted what we thought would happen with him, and he actually scored quickly, which is a surprise to all of us.
Surprise to me in particular, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say Stoinis for the rising star.
Yeah, I was just same as Ryan. Like, I was thinking about it. Initially, I thought Stoinis because he did very differently how we thought he would be. But I think Nokia just came out of nowhere. Like, he was very, very good. I think we didn't even think he would have that spot in the team. I think they had like Sams and Sandeep Lamachane, but Nokia was pretty good, and it's great for South Africa as well.
Yeah. So yeah, disappointment for Delhi. There's actually a few good options here. There's 2 very obvious ones, but I'm gonna pull one out of the blue here and not go for one of the 2 that I think you guys might be thinking of. I'm gonna say Shimron Hetmeyer. Shimron Hetmeyer has done absolutely nothing. We all thought he was going to start. He was going to be a number 4, rock in the middle order, done absolutely nothing the whole IPL. Eventually got dropped after 10 games after doing just did nothing. You could make the same case for Pant probably, but he was a bit better. I thought quite a bit better, and I think Prithvi Shaw also made scores at times. So I'm gonna stick with Hetmeyer as my disappointment for Delhi. How about you guys?
I'll go.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've got all 3, but I think from I don't know if there was an expectation on Shaw this year, but I feel like I don't think he scored any runs. Maybe 150, a 60 odd.
Didn't he have really good innings, didn't he?
I thought he
all I remember was seeing all of Delhi's opening partnerships being in single figures. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
And if Darwin's scoring majority of the runs, he scored 6. There were 6 figures over 50 out of 17, even though there were 4 darks there. But he scored majority of the runs in the top order at least.
Yeah.
So I'd say pretty sure. Pretty underwhelming. And
Sure.
he eventually got dropped for Stoinis, but that's probably a minor point.
The sad thing for sure, I think that definitely his ending definitely means that Delhi probably won't think about having him at all next year. Like if they have an option, whatever. But I'm gonna go Rishabh Pant just because the last 2 years he's been India's best IPL batsman. So there's a load of expectations on him.
Well, that's
not even like
controversial.
That's true. You could in all formats, expectations on him are just like letting him down really. Like, and he had a lot of 30s, I believe, 20s, 30s, stuff like that. But he can never like get out of his shell the way we know he can. And
I think that's probably to do with Ponting. He's probably told him to take his time because in all the international games, you always see him lose his head and try and hit a 6 off like his 3rd ball, and then
like Ponting was their coach last year, and he was still very different.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd say maybe like no crowds, not in India. I don't know, stuff like that. But
yeah, maybe
he is my most disappointing player for Delhi.
That's fair. Yeah, I would also have Pant over Shaw if it wasn't Hetmeyer. I think Shaw did a bit at the beginning when Darwin had a pretty poor start to the tournament. Shaw made a few runs in the first few games, which is purely why I'd have him above Pant, who's been pretty hopeless the whole time. But anyway, 3 players you'd retain to make your base around next year. I've gone for Shreyas Iyer. I think that's the obvious one. Captain, he's going to continue to be the captain. I've gone for Rabada. Yugisa Rabada, one of the best bowlers all tournament. It's been superb for them, especially at the death. And Shikhar Dhawan. It's made so many runs for them, especially in the latter half of the season. I think those are the obvious 3.
Yep, understand.
I'm going different. Obviously I have Aya and Rabada, but I think someone like Dhawan, there's so many young up and coming Indian openers, and they could easily replace him with. So I'm going to go stick with Rishabh Pant. I think they will do that. I definitely think they'll do that. I just think he's too good to not have, like, just in case.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's very fair.
Like, they'll definitely be kicking
This
him.
could definitely be a one-off season.
Yeah. Yeah. So as my right to matches, I've gone for Pant, and I think that'd be a pretty tough one to match. I think that'll still be a huge bid for Pant. I've actually still gone for Shaw. I think Shaw's got enough potential that they'll want to try and keep him. Start of the tournament, Shaw he made 64, 66 and a 42 in his first 5 games. After that, he made absolutely nothing for the next 7. But I think he's done just enough for them to think he's got enough promise to keep him, and he has got a lot of potential, I think.
Yeah, so I'd probably go Pant as well, but I don't know. Sure. I'd put Stoinis in there, but yeah, I think Stoinis has got more to offer than Shaw, purely because number one, Stoinis can fill in Shaw's role if need be, and Stoinis has the fielding and the bowling on top of that. So I'd back Stoinis in that one. But it could be a one-off season, you never know. But the fact that Stoinis has been performing in the Big Bash and has performed in franchise cricket before, I think he could definitely perform for Delhi in the future. So I'm going to go with Stoinis. The second option.
I feel with internationals, unless they're like very top tier, they probably don't care about them because there's so many other guys like them. Like, there's so many fast bowlers out there, there's so many all-rounders out there that will be on the auction. I'm gonna put like 2 pairs of players. So like one of Dhawan or Shaw, I think they'll look to try and get, because having is pretty important. And this is a little bit different. I think one of Axar Patel or Ashwin. I think they'll want to make sure that they have a pretty good spinner, and those 2 guys are quite good.
Yeah, that's.
Yep, I think that's fair. I'd say Patel over Ashwin, but because he's pretty old. But
I mean, it depends. Would you rather spend money on really good Indian players or spend money on international players?
I think the answer is definitely really good Indian players. I think Asha made a great point there, but you don't keep internationals unless they're the very best. Because you expect your internationals to be good no matter who they are. At the end of the day, you're picking, the best 32 T20 players from around the globe.
So arguably,
all good.
I don't know. In my opinion, Stoinis is up there for international players.
I think there's only like a handful really that you'd think are automatics.
Yeah, I mean, but like every team has 2 or 3 amazing international players, like all of them.
Then sometimes the one that you don't expect just is like a cheap player, like a Pattinson or someone, just does the job.
Or Nautia, for example, which is I think a great example of how you can just bring someone in like that. Anyway,
but I feel like there's always going to be someone like that in every team.
Yep.
There's always going to be a cheap international player.
I feel like internationals are more likely to surprise than Indians.
Yeah, but core Indian players are so important for the IPL. That's why you see them going for such high prices, young Indian players that you can keep in your team. It's just so important. So moving on, next team,
Should we talk about the fact that Delhi pretty much max expectations?
Right.
We expected them to come up to the top, and they did that as expected. Although they didn't come up in the fashion that we thought they would. We thought they'd heavily rely on the Indian top order, but that didn't really happen. I think they relied on maybe one of the top 3, one of the top 4 to score big runs, and then they finished off quite well, I think. So
I think they did well considering Punt and Hetmai weren't as good as they would have thought they would be.
yeah,
And sure, yeah.
For sure.
I mean, yeah, I said they come second, but I mean, I think there's certainly an argument could be made that they performed worse than we thought. Like they were, one result away from not actually making the finals.
Sure.
They lost the game to RCB. They really choked in the latter half of the season. Looks like they might not make finals for quite a while. They just lost one game.
They did the best team at one point. It was very weird end to the season.
Yeah, it's been a strange IPL. Like Mumbai have been the only consistent team this IPL. But anyway,
I think we said they would beat Mumbai, but I think that was more out of hope. Like,
yeah, and it being an even year.
mm,
So who is the next team in alphabetical order? I haven't thought about it. Is it Punjab?
yeah.
11? Okay,
Can I just talk about them? Yeah.
sure, go on.
go for it.
I was gonna say like the thing that would most summarize them is like so close yet so far. Like their games were probably the most entertaining in the league. Games that they should have won, they didn't. Games that they did win, that they almost didn't. And like when it all looked like they had no hope, they suddenly just won 5 in a row, and then they had destiny back in their own hands, and they fuck it up. Like
Yeah,
very frustrating fan point of view, but it just, I guess, it kind of deserved it.
Very entertaining for any other fan's point of view. I always enjoy the Punjab season. This has been a classic Punjab season.
A classic, but it's a bit different this time. Usually they start off well, then
True, yeah.
Yeah.
They'll always have one half of the season where they'll win like 5 games out of 7, and then the other half where they'll win 1, and that's been pretty much the same as usual. So biggest disappointment for Punjab this season. I sure wonder who everyone's put for this. I've gone for Glenn Maxwell. Correct.
oh, what a surprise!
I know.
he was in that
Yeah.
game.
It's been hopeless. He's done absolutely nothing.
He's done nothing.
He's
He
offered
played
more
every
bowling
game as well. They
than-
didn't drop him.
Yeah.
Did they?
He didn't play the last game.
Oh, okay.
I think they should have kept him anyway, just in case.
But like they said that the last 12 times.
Yeah.
It's just
In the end, he became a bowling all-rounder, really, or just a bowler.
Yeah. You never know what to think of Maxwell. He's just like this. What can you do?
Like it could be argued that he didn't have many balls to face as soon as he came in, but it's been clear that his role is to go out and hit, and he's been doing that for a lot of other teams. So why is Punjab any different? So definitely he's been under par.
Yeah, he didn't hit a single 6, which is just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, that's
Would have
ridiculous.
thought.
I'm assuming you guys are looking for Maxwell as well.
Yep.
Okay, so rising star for Punjab. I struggled with this for a bit. I didn't go with Agarwal. I thought he was going to have a great season, so I decided.
Yeah, I think Agarwal's an established player now.
Yeah. So I've gone for Ravi Bishnoi. I think out of the bowlers, he's been my pick, except for Shami, who I wouldn't call a rising star. He's just been a solid bowler for Punjab. And I thought about going Pooran for this as well, but I thought he'd be okay as well at the same time. I didn't know that much about
I think
Bishnoi.
all of their big players performed, so they all performed to expectation, and all the players that they didn't.
One that
minus Maxwell. So yeah, I've gone with Bishnoi as well. I think he's been definitely a second to Shami in terms of the bowling. I mean, he kept it tight. He may have not picked up as many wickets as everyone thought, but he's picked up maybe 1 or 2 every game, and he's kept it tight. His economy rate's maybe low 7s, I think, mid to low 7s. So it's definitely pretty good as a spinner.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've gone the opposite. Like, I thought Bishnoi would be good, and he was good. Like, I really liked him in the under-19 World Cup. And Agarwal, like, obviously he's pretty good in test matches, and I wasn't sure if he had the game in all 3 formats, and I think he's really put himself forward as in T20s now. So he's my rising player. Some people even say he played better than Rahul. I've seen people say that because of his and stuff.
Yep.
I don't know about that, but he was my rising player.
Also, just to add, Ryan said all their big players before minus Maxwell. I'd also bring up how much did they pay for Chris Jordan?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Maxwell and Jordan were the two they paid the most for, I think. And they're huge signings. They did
It
have
was disappointing Mujib didn't play much. Did even I don't know.
I think at the start of the tournament, Jordan was pretty bad, but I think he kind of leveled out a little near the end. But it obviously wasn't enough to justify the price tag.
It's certainly interesting how they kept preferring Neesham as the alternative to Jordan, not Mujib. I thought Mujib could have played at one point. I guess they wanted the stronger middle order.
I think they get controlled too much as well at times.
Yeah, they probably should have dropped Maxwell sooner. I think considering how well the top order was going, they could have afforded to drop Neesham from Mujib. But anyway,
He barely did anything as well. Like he wasn't not really a bowler, not really a batter. And I saw something funny. It's a little bit different. So obviously the Big Bash rules changes. Neesham tweeted like, "If you're not good enough to be in the team, how much of an X factor could you be?" Like
yes,
that's kind of
I
rich.
saw that. Yes, Jimmy Neeshman's Twitter. I love it.
Kind of rich coming from him.
So yeah, 3 players to retain for Punjab. 2 are obvious. Got Rahul and Agarwal. I think we're all going to say Rahul and Agarwal. I've actually gone for Maxwell as my third. I think you keep him. I know it's controversial, but he could easily be the player of the IPL next season. It's just how Maxwell goes. Sometimes he's really bad for months. Sometimes he's just like out of this world for months. So I've actually controversially gone for Maxwell as my third pick.
I've gone Rahul and Agarwal, and I think they'll definitely RTM Shami because like Shami and Agarwal, they need them both. I think. Third player, I've gone for Nicholas Puran. I think it's not going to be long before Puran's a better player than Maxwell, I'd say. So that's my reasoning. And Maxwell, I really wanted to succeed. One of my favorite players, but I think like he'll probably still get a high price, but not for me.
Who do you think, Ryan?
So I go Rahul and Shami. I think you can right to match Agarwal. He's going to be a lot cheaper than Shami for sure. In my opinion.
I don't know about that. I think I could see some teams bidding a lot for Agarwal.
I think Indian pace bowlers
Indian pace bowlers though.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're not that common. Like the good ones, you know what I mean?
Like,
in terms of Indian openers, he's in the top 4.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you'll find
Rahul, Sharma, Darwin. Like,
I don't know. I'd pay more for Shami than Agarwal, but
I certainly wouldn't.
Okay.
But yeah. But who's your third?
And Maxwell.
Okay.
Like yeah. I agree with what Arden says about Puran potentially being a better batter than Maxwell, but Maxwell does all three facets. Like Puran may not even keep. Like he doesn't even keep.
Puran's the one who did like one of the best stops in history. The 6. You remember that?
But
I don't think that means you'd retain him in the team somehow.
Yeah, but Maxwell's overall, you'd say Maxwell's a better fielder.
Yeah.
The thing I love, like Maxwell's always been like my favorite Australian player, and even I don't think they should keep him.
Thing is, I think Puran isn't a good enough international to keep, isn't he? One of your 3. Like we talked about, you don't keep unless they're really good.
Yeah,
I would rather they kept Shami than Puran, and I'd rather they kept I don't know.
Well, I probably overrate Puran, but I think he's very good.
Like I think he's solid. But I think there's a lot of very good, batsmen out there. Your Josh Butlers, there's a lot of those English top orders, sort of Australians out there.
He's West Indies' best T20 pure batsman, not an aura.
Okay, and am I right to match is Shami and Puran, which is just who I didn't have out of the other ones. How about you guys?
I went Shami and Bishnoi. I don't think they care. I don't think Punjab have loyalty to their internationals. Like they'll just get whoever. Apparently, they'll go very heavy at Stark. That's what I've heard. Could be interesting.
Yeah, mine's pretty obvious. Agarwal and Puran.
Yep. Okay. I think we can just what you said enough about Punjab. Should we move on to Kolkata?
I was just gonna say I was very close to calling them like spot on, and yeah, as opposed to you two.
You mean your predictions? I don't remember what yours were.
I put them as 4th.
And
they should have got it in the end. 6th. They could have. I don't know. It's very
I
hard.
had them in 7th, which does seem
But there
closer,
was a time when everyone was like, "Yeah, they're good enough to come back now."
but
And
they
if they
weren't.
were over and all that, whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
they left it way too late. But yeah, Kolkata. This is one of the hardest ones for me, talk especially about who you keep. But Rising Star, I've gone for Varun Chakravarthi. I think he's been great. He's got an Indian call up. I didn't know that much about him before this IPL, and he's just been really, really impressive. How about you two?
Oh, didn't you go first? I don't think.
Yeah, definitely Chakravarti. Um, he he was all right, pretty good. Because I'd say Shubman Gill was already expected to be pretty solid. So yeah, go Chakravarti.
I don't know. I think Shubman Gill. He wasn't really known as a good 2020 player, was he?
Obviously, we're just known as a good young.
Is he known as
He's a
one
good
now?
youngster.
After all his good, 60 off
Well,
60?
maybe he hasn't. Yeah. In that case, I was going to originally go Gill just because he's been really consistent. I didn't think he'd have a great tournament. I thought he'd maybe get a bit like Shaw and get maybe a few scores here and there and then like taper off. But yeah, but I think I might go with Chakravarti as well. But I think Chakravarti came along near the end of the tournament, so it's kind of yeah.
Yeah, I guess the thing
For
is
me,
with Gill, it's just
it's
the
a bit
strike
difficult
rate
to
issue
choose.
for Gill. Like so many times he just hasn't really scored fast enough for them.
I feel like there isn't a standout
That's
for
not
me.
his job. They have Morgan, Russell, others yeah.
Yeah. Biggest disappointment, I've gone for Russell. I know he was injured a bit.
No doubt.
He was player of the season last year, I think. I know on my ranking he finished on about 2 points, something like that. He was pretty bad. He's just done nothing.
Arguably, given the price tag, Cummins, but I think that's hard to justify because he did perform okay. But I think everyone was expecting him to perform like Rabada or Jofra Archer, but yeah.
I'm gonna do a will and just go a little bit different. Like I know Russell is the most disappointing by far, but I'm gonna go for Kuldeep Yadav because I'm just really I'm disappointed how much he's fallen off, and I'm looking now 1 wicket for 92 runs. That's just very poor for him. He only played a couple of games, and people weren't even debating that he should be picked, and like that says a lot about him. And my biggest disappointment for him.
Yeah, I mean,
He's on the tour to Australia, isn't he, though? But for ODIs.
Yeah, I think that's more in pedigree, you'd say.
Yeah, I mean, ODIs is a different matter as well, though. He's always been a better.
Yeah, but the fact that he's still within the setup is a statement in itself.
I think he has this. He's still in the test team. He's probably the best test bowler for them after Ashwin. Spinner.
Yeah. And I get the point about Cummins with the price tag, but I would still make an argument that he's been their best player this season. So I think it would be harsh to say. It is ironic that he could potentially be the biggest disappointment, despite maybe being their best player.
Yeah, that's because of
but people thought he'd be really good.
Yeah.
And he wasn't quite that. So 3 players you'd keep. I struggled a lot with this. I've gone for 2 internationals and 1 Indian player. My Indian player is Chakravarthi. I think they'll definitely want to keep him. I mean, I think he's been really good. I think he's made his way into the Indian side. And you have to keep 1 Indian player here. I get you guys are probably going to say Gill. I'm probably going to have him as a right to match. I'm going to go for Chakravarthi because I feel they've got a good batting strength anyway. Or they can get more. Russell, I'm keeping Russell. You got to keep Russell. He's probably on his day he's the best T20 player in the world. He's had a bad season. He struggled with injury. I think you keep Russell, and also Cummins. I think you keep. Despite how much you're paying him, he showed how good he can be with those 4 wickets at the end of the season. He's just a quality player. That's assuming he's playing the IPL next year. It's probably not confirmed. But if he does, you keep Cummins.
I feel like the problem with Kolkata is that they're either really young or really old, and the really older and experienced players aren't the top tier players. So it's like Will said, it's a bit of a struggle to pick 3 stand-up players, but So I've gone with Cummins. I think you have to keep Cummins. Like there shouldn't even be a question about that. I've gone with Gill. I think he's just starting. He's showing glimpses that he could potentially score quickly. He's got the consistency, but he just needs to up that strike rate. And the last one, do I go with Russell? That's the big question. I think you have to choose Russell just purely on the fact that he can win a game from any position. He's got such big ball striking ability. I don't know what happened with him this year, but I think you can't really leave that out. So, but it'll be interesting to see how much he goes for next year if they don't retain him.
I mean, imagine you don't retain Russell and then he plays for another team and just play like he's the player of the tournament again. Like imagine that'd just be terrible.
I think this is very hard, but I reckon in terms of retention, they probably want to keep the players that wouldn't go. They wouldn't have to pay a lot for, right? So from that perspective, they want to keep Russell and Cummins because they would go for a lot in the auction, and even if they match that, they still have to pay that much, right?
If they keep them, they still have to pay the amount they're already paying them, I assume.
Yeah, but they might be a higher wage than what they earn now.
Yeah.
Or whatever, however it works.
Not with Cummins, but yeah.
Wait, if that's how it works, then you're pretty much retaining 5 players.
Well, like a lot of time, they just purposely let go of players because they know they can get them for cheaper.
I mean, also with like right to match, they could easily go for a lot more than what you're currently paying them. So if you've got someone on quite a cheap contract, you definitely keep them, I think.
Yeah.
Indian player,
I don't know. Yeah, we do not. Never mind. Keep going.
India's tough. For like Gill and Chakrabarti, there's a lot of like Indian openers all the time. A lot of Indian spinners all the time. But I'm gonna go with Gill because I'm a big fan of him and personal preference.
I feel like Gill's. Oh no, are you retaining him? Yeah.
Retaining.
Okay. Yep.
Keeping him. He's one of the 3. Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Interesting question. Did you guys consider Nitish Rana as an alternative to Gill at any point? I think he's been pretty much as good this year as Gill. At the end of the season, Rana was really good for them. And Gill was starting to really struggle with his strike rate and he's scoring really slowly. I think they would keep Gill over Rana because he's younger and Rana's still only 26 and Rana looked promising for them at times.
I didn't think about it, but in hindsight, it's a good idea. Maybe Rana is very underrated. I'd say maybe he would be an RTM. I'd say.
Yeah. Just looking at the stats, Rana got 350s and 3 docks. Well, Shubman Gill just got 350s, and their total amount of runs only differs by 90.
Last year, Rana was very good, I believe.
So.
Yeah,
there is an argument
runs,
to have,
but not that fast. It's just my problem.
Yeah.
I've said this a lot, but I think
Yeah.
Rana hit that.
Yeah, you definitely place them closely together. So it's a toss of the coin, really. But I feel like Gill, like over time, he's going to improve that strike rate.
Yeah,
the more experience
that's why
he
I've
gets.
gone for Gill.
Yeah.
He's one of my right to matches with Gill, and I've also gone for Owen Morgan as the other one.
Yep.
He's still a quality player. He's one of the better internationals. I think you'd right to match Morgan.
Yeah, same. Definitely, he's going to be their captain still. I reckon. Like they want one of the best leaders in cricket right now.
So I've gone with Morgan and Chakravarti. Smart teams. I think Chakravarti's going to go for a lot.
Yeah.
If they don't retain him.
He went for a lot.
2 seasons ago. Yeah.
And that was.
When Punjab bought him. Yeah.
So obviously that means that none of us are thinking of retaining Sunil Narayan. He's had a.
I think the fact that
way past, yeah. He got like suspect action again, didn't he?
I've got a feeling they would even have him as one of their 5, because you'd hope his spin might be better back in India. Like they've just relied too much on his batting. Like Sunil Narayan is not actually a top 4 batsman. It's a fun experiment to do to open him when you're missing a player or something. And I get it, but like you can't have him consistently as like your number 4 Sunil Narayan. It's just ridiculous. Like it's just And you've got Morgan and Russell in 5 and 6. Having Narayan at 4 is just
I agree.
just
Like
blocking it too much.
it even meant like someone like a Tripathi was actually like not even that bad for them, but they didn't even think of him in that way, just because they're like, oh, we have to use Narayan.
But like it was the Renegades that did it first, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they had someone injured, and they just put Narayan up to open with Finch, and it worked really well. And then everyone just decided Narayan was going to be just an opener or a top 4 batsman, which is just ridiculous.
I don't even think he does that for West Indies much.
Yeah. And
Terms of
on his
where we
day, he's a great bowler.
Didn't you two rate KKR pretty high?
Yeah, I had them first. I thought they'd have a really good season.
I had them second. Oh, not second, third. Yeah, third.
Remember, I originally had, like, I think Delhi, Mumbai as the top 2. I decided I'd mix it up a bit and go for KKR. But it's been a classic KKR season where they look really promising and finish about average.
Sorry, fifth.
They finished 5th. Yeah, they were unlucky not to make finals with the whole net run rate thing with RCB.
I put them 6th. I thought they'd be a bit overrated. Yeah, kind of were.
Yeah, I mean, they won 7 games. It's lost 7. It's just completely average.
I don't think they ever got away with a big score like they did last year.
I mean, I didn't see Russell having this bad of a season. If Russell had played like he did last year, they probably would have been close to first. And also, Cummins have performed a bit better. They certainly had a lot of potential that they probably had to be pretty disappointed with the season. So I think we're done KKR. Moving on, it is Mumbai.
Yes.
Mumbai. Okay, I think
Too good. It should be illegal, but they are.
Yeah, their team is just the cheat code.
Ridiculously good. And they've got such an amazing consistent batting order.
And their bench is so strong as well.
Yeah, they're just.
If you're swapping between Coulter and Pattinson.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, remember Ryan, you said they go undefeated.
Yeah, that was my way of saying that they were.
But in a way, they were that good.
Your way of saying they'd win 9 games.
My way of saying they were way above the rest. Yeah, my way of saying that they'd win 9 games.
I mean, it seems like they were way above the best by finals, but at the end of the day, they're only like 2 wins above most of the teams, 1 win above second. Like they weren't that far ahead.
I think it was just because of the fact that so many different players performed for them. So it's like they had all bases covered.
You never have like the whole top 6 stuff up because they've just got so much going for them. So yeah, Rising Star, I've got Kishan. I already thought it was quite good, but
no real surprise.
Yeah, so you Kimi Yadav, you couldn't really call a Rising Star, so I think it's got to be Kishan. You guys got the same?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with Yadav, isn't he?
No, I think it was very obvious. Yadav's already very good.
Okay.
He's had a couple of good years. I don't even know about Kishan as well because he already's had a lot of hype. Could say.
But like, who else? Who else in the
Kishan really didn't really play last year, did he?
Yeah, I'll probably say Kishan. Yeah, because
he did.
Probably
not a huge amount from memory.
He hasn't performed a lot, but he's always been praised as a young star.
I don't know, could be wrong.
My other player kind of random, but like I was just impressed with James Pattinson. Like I never thought of him as like a 2020 player, even though he's always played Big Bash, but he's never been considered for Australia in recent years.
I think he played second fiddle to Bolton Bumrah, so in that case he kind of picked up the scraps. I feel like, but nevertheless, I think he's been pretty consistent.
I think he probably would have quite regretted in some ways playing the IPL, considering he's going to really hurt his chances of playing cricket this summer for Australia. The fact that he's missed every round of Shield to play IPL.
I think everyone knows he's the 4th best. Still.
I mean, I don't think he's going to have to play pretty well in the tour games to prove that he's going to be better than Nisa. I think Nisa has to be the replacement at the moment. But anyway, that's another matter. Disappointment. There's 2 options. They're brothers. I've gone for Hardik Pandya as the disappointment. He was in the top 2 players last year. He's been nowhere near as good this year. Krunal's been pretty bad too, but Hardik has more expectation. He started to come good a bit right at the end, but he just didn't do enough, and he wasn't really bowling at all. So
yeah, I'm the same. Hardik.
Yeah, he is. But the funny thing is, like some people rate his season a lot, and like he wasn't that bad. but like obviously compared to his standards,
I think Pollard played the role that what we expected of Hardik Pandya.
so looking Pandya and
Yeah,
Pollard
Pollard
had
scored all Hardik's runs that we thought we were going to get, that he was going to score.
between Pandya and Pollard just 250s. But I guess I didn't need them.
I mean,
Even if it was just the biggest disappointment, you could even say no one was a disappointment for them.
yeah, I mean, they won't. Pandya won't be that disappointed. He just didn't get much of a chance like he was getting last year. But like, you know, he's made a few 30s. He only made 150 all season, and he didn't get that much of a chance. But still, it's not that good. And it was an amazing.
Did he even get to face more than like 20, 30 balls ever?
Yeah, the most he faced this season was 21 balls, and that's when he hit 60 not out. So, yeah, you could definitely argue that Krunal's been worse. Yeah, I mean, it's just at the end of the day, like on my ranking, you finished on about 30 points. Last year, you finished on about 160. That does it. That does it for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Would you retain? That's like the bigger question. Like the biggest question.
I think it's obvious.
I was pretty
Really?
happy with my 3. I think it'll probably be the same as Arjun's. I've gone for Rohit Sharma.
Rohit Sharma, Jasprit Bumrah, and Hardik Pandya.
Yep, that's my 3. Pandya is too good not to keep. Sharma's the captain. Bumrah is the best Indian bowler. I think it's got to be those 3.
The best bowler.
Or maybe.
Ryan?
Yeah, just tossing up. No, I'll go Rohit Sharma, Bumrah, and De Kock. I think. Oh, it's a way up. Who's going to cost more? That's the thing. Who do you think is going to cost more? De Kock and
Hardik
Hardik Pandya.
Pandya, if he's available, he'd be the highest.
It would be like he'd be the highest,
record.
the best all rounder by far for India.
Yeah.
Like the Indian all rounder.
In that case, you probably retain Hardik, but if we ignored money, I would retain Quinton de Kock because I think he plays a much bigger role than Hardik. If Hardik's not going to bowl and he's just there as a pinch hitter, and you've got Krunal who's batted ahead of him at times, and Pollard who by the end of the season was batting ahead of him, you really don't need his power at the end.
It's only because of injury he didn't bowl. He'll definitely bowl.
Well, yeah.
One thing I would note is just that De Kock has been very good. I would make an argument that I would actually still have Sayukumi Yadav over De Kock as if it wasn't Pandya, he'd be my 3rd one. I think there's a lot of good international openers out there. Pretty much every team has one. But Sayukumi Yadav is playing very, very well. He's had as good as a season as De Kock, I'd say. Everyone's thinking he's looking great. And he's like, an Indian player and an international player playing at the same level, you keep the Indian one, I would say. But either way, they're my 2 right to matches, De Kock and Sayukumi Yadav.
Yeah, I don't know, very conflicted. I've actually thought about, even though it doesn't sound like the best option, Krunal Pandya, just because their winning formula has been relying on the 2 brothers together, and they probably wouldn't want to change that. But thinking about it, I'd probably go Surya Kumar and then Quinton de Kock. They also do love Pollard, but I think de Kock's better than him.
I think there'd be a riot in Mumbai if they retained Krunal Pandya over Sayukumi Yadav, I have to say. Like, he's been getting a lot of hate this season, Krunal, because he's done nothing.
True. And I think actually Surya Kumar would go for a lot as well, I reckon.
Yep.
I gotta do it.
Okay, here we go.
Well, you can go Trent Bolt.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I just think
I don't think there's really any really good new ball bowlers. All the best bowlers are really take their wickets at the death, or really good at the death. And Bolt can bowl. If he's used properly, should bowl 3 at the top if he's bowling well.
But instead of who?
Yeah, that's the question.
I think Stark, Cummins, they're like the same. Him.
No, but Stark and Cummins can bowl at the death. Bolt's not really a death bowler. Hardik or Suryakumar Yadav. You have to pick Hardik Pandya.
It has to be.
Yeah.
I think Mumbai be pretty disappointed if they lost Kishan and Sayukumi Yadav, I have to say.
Yeah.
It's so important for them.
They'll probably end up going off them anyway. Like, that doesn't mean they're not going to have.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
The team is so good. You'd be happy with majority of them.
Yeah, well,
Being
Mumbai
behind
had
you.
certainly suffered the most from a mega auction. Like they just want to keep the team as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess it kind of makes it fair for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get to move on.
Yeah, we should move on.
Who's next?
Worst team by ranking.
Rajasthan.
They will start with R. I don't know which one's next.
Yeah, Rajasthan.
Rajasthan.
Okay. That I mean, yeah, they finished last. I think that's harsh. I think they played better than Chennai, for example. I mean,
Yeah, I think they played better than Chennai, and at I don't
at their
know.
best
When they popped,
yeah,
when they all turned up, they easily looked up there with Delhi and Mumbai. But that was few and far between.
If they had Stokes on form for the whole season, they probably would have made finals.
I feel like there's a correlation between Sanju Samson's performances and Rajasthan Royals.
Absolutely, when Rajasthan win, they look really good when they win.
Yeah.
But they lose too much to be consistent.
Yeah. So yeah, I've actually haven't done this one yet. So rising star and disappointments. Who have you guys got?
Rising is very hard because Samson, I wouldn't say is right. Like he's already done this.
He's not as established.
I know who I'd go for.
I might have to look at some stats. I'm a bit stumped here.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw out Tawashia.
But he's
of course, yeah. That's so obvious.
Is he a rising star though?
I mean, did you really expect him to have the season he did?
What has he ever?
I didn't even really know him.
Yeah, true. Good point. Good point. Valid point.
He's been like probably their second best player this season after Jafra.
Yeah. He's definitely the rising star for sure.
Yep.
Disappointment is an interesting one. There's a few to go with, isn't there? Who have you guys thought about for the disappointment?
Right.
Butler. Just because how consistent he is across every other T20 tournament he's played. He's been mediocre. He's a bit like Cummins. He's been mediocre. Everyone expects him to do really well, but he's kind of plateaued a bit. So I'd say Butler. But there could be a case with Steve Smith. But Steve Smith is he really an established 2020 player? I think
the captain.
He's a test player, an ODI player, trying to mold a T20, and it doesn't really seem to work. He's always trying to force his runs. A bit like Shubman Gill. He's trying to up that strike rate, and he struggles.
I'll go. I've actually considering Stokes. Other than that one innings, he was actually poor for a long time. But you could say he made up for it. But I'll go with Steve Smith.
With Stokes, it's really hard to put judgment on it because he only played a handful of games compared to everyone else. I mean, if he played the full season and you doubled what he had, it's pretty much.
Even so, though, I think he's going to be better than Smith and Butler.
Yeah.
I think with Smith, I actually think he's a bit underrated in the IPL anyway. Like he's done decent enough for Rajasthan. It's not like they chose him as captain for no reason. Like he's good.
As a battle or as a captain?
As a batter, 35, strike rate of 130.
I mean, as a Rajasthan fan, I've been a bit disappointed by Smith this season. I think it's just too many times he's been getting out in times where he usually doesn't. In times when our middle order's collapsing, it's been partly Smith's fault, and I think that's been a bit disappointing, even though he has made some runs at times.
I mean, if you ask Steve Smith, how do you think he performed this year? He'd say, I'd perform shit.
Yep.
Like, genuinely. That's what I think he'd say.
Yeah. I'd say Butler's been worse than those two. I think the other one I'm considering is actually Ryan Parag. I thought people were quite excited about him coming into the season, and he's been really disappointing. Hasn't done much. But I am going to say Butler. I think it's a disappointment.
I think Parag's a bit harsh because he bats number 6, and I don't think there's an expectation for number 6 to.
He's had a lot of opportunities though.
But he's not going to score like Russell or a player like that sort of mold, Russell Puran, who will score really quickly. Like you're not going to expect that from him, so it's a bit harsh. But I can understand. Yeah, you comment on that. Because I don't think he didn't do exceptional last year. He just got a handful of 40s, maybe 1 or 2 40s and a 50, something like that. And a lot of hype around that, I guess, because he's young. But see.
Yeah,
But when
whatever
you
for
say,
Butler is the disappointment. I think there's certainly questions over why Butler was batting 5 for a lot of the season and opening with Uthapar. I think that was questionable decision making. But yeah, he hasn't been good enough.
I was going to say, well, when you say Shreyas Gopal was disappointing, wasn't the top wicket taker like you said he would be.
Oh, yeah, actually, Gopal was another one I was considering for disappointment as well. It's true he wasn't the top wicket taker. Like I mean, I wasn't that serious about that, but I thought he'd be a lot better than he was. Yeah, you could definitely argue Gopal for disappointment. But I think he's been about as good as like Butler and Smith, and there's a lot more expectation on Butler. 3 I'd retain. Archer, obviously, you got to keep Jofra Archer. I've got the Stokes over Smith and Butler. I think Stokes is the next best. If he plays the whole season, he's very, very good. And I've got the Sanju Samson as the Indian player. He's been way too
exactly the
inconsistent
same.
for my liking, but when he's good, he's so good.
Those are the 3 most obvious picks, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've gone the same, except I'm really torn between Butler and Stokes. Obviously, Stokes is the all-rounder, but I think Butler is better in 2020s if he opens the batting. I don't know why they swapped them. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I think one of them said something to the press, but I'll go Butler.
I really disagree that Butler is a better T20 player than Stokes. I think Stokes is an excellent player in all formats. And
I think Butler's definitely the
International
better T20 batter. And Stokes isn't really a pure 2020 bowler. He doesn't have the same effect in T20s as he does in ODIs and Tests. I can see where Arden's coming from.
I get it, but I think you're underrating Stokes a bit. I think he's still very good.
It's a tough call either way. If you don't pick Butler, you feel like you're gonna lose a lot.
That's why I think they'll probably match the other one.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they'd rather bring in they'd rather giving another Indian batsman another international bowler. To be honest, they just got this top order cramped with international players that are sort of out of position. So for my right to matches, I haven't actually gone for Butler either. I've gone for Smith and Tawashia.
Oh, I'd pick Butler over Smith any day.
Sure, but Smith's the captain. Butler hasn't done enough. I think you could find replacements for Butler.
I know Smith's the captain, but captain in T20s, I mean, he's not the most experienced in T20 as a T20 captain, is he?
You could say they could give Butler captaincy.
Well, or Stokes.
Yeah, just Stokes over Butler. He'll be the England captain.
Stokes is captain.
In 2 years, Stokes will be the England captain in all formats. Change my
Butler
mind.
has captained more tests than Stokes. Good Stokes.
Yeah.
Stokes has got he's got a captain like mold.
The fucking Chad. Butler is a bit of a beta.
Yeah.
And then the Indian player, the second Indian player that you match, bit hard.
I mean, I've got Vitoasia. I think he's had a good enough season. You could argue for Gopal, or even Parag, but I've got Vitoasia. He's been good enough.
I guess I'll go Tawadia as well.
Yeah, I think Gopal's a better spinner, but Tawadia gives you the batting option. So yeah, Tawadia.
Yeah, this year Tawadia has bowled better than Gopal as well.
No, but overall, I'd say Gopal's the better spinner.
Yeah, that's fair. It'd be interesting, obviously, if it was back in India as well, how different it would have been. But Tawadia as a finisher, I am quite liking him.
Yeah.
It's also sad that Tom Curran didn't get more of a go in the back end of the season for Rajasthan. I think he was pretty good while he was playing. You could have dropped Butler at times for Curran, but anyway. Anything else to add about Rajasthan? Or do we move on?
I think, like you said at the start, there was 2 points between 3rd and 8th, and Rajasthan could have easily come 5th.
Yeah, it's just like the game against Kolkata. If we won that, it depends on.
So I don't think you guys performed that badly, but you weren't exceptional either.
Yeah,
but you definitely didn't deserve to come last.
Yeah. It's similar to a lot of teams that we just have players that can win games for you. That's why we've won 6 games. And that's the same deal with a lot of the other teams.
Yep.
next up, your boys, RCB. Royal Thunders Bangalore. Are you happy with the RCB season?
Yeah, way above expectations. Not gonna lie. I thought we were gonna have a Chennai-like season.
I'm just gonna say I put them as top 3. I put them as third, even though they dropped off at the end. I thought I wasn't surprised.
I thought it'd be close to playoffs, but I thought would play like Chennai, like played poorly.
And I stand by that. They're bad.
Wait, who came last in the league?
But I do think it's interesting how much happier, hired about an RCB fans would be with the season than teams that had one less win than them. Like, it feels like a really disappointing season for Punjab and Rajasthan and Chennai. And it's just that extra win, like, because of the net, because RCB lost to Delhi by less than, to just keep their net run rate above. It feels like they've had a good season now.
I'd actually say some RCB fans, a lot wouldn't be happy because they finished with 5 losses in a row.
Yeah.
And it was a very sour end to their season.
Oh yeah, that's true. But overall, you'd be happy with the season.
So yeah, RCB Rising Star. I've gone for Patakal.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Really good. And think they'll look to keep him in the future. Have you guys both got Patakal?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Disappointment. I've gone for Finch.
Yep.
Australian T20 captain, white ball captain. You would have really hoped for a really big season for him, but Finch just doesn't seem to be able to perform in franchise leagues. He's never been that good in the Big Bash. He's been good at times, but in IPL, he doesn't perform well. He's a great T20 international player. He doesn't really bring it to the IPL. So yeah, pretty, like, the fact that he's getting replaced by Philippines shows how bad he was.
Yep, I'm exactly the same.
Yeah, I'm the same. Finch. A lot of people would say Kohli. I'd say he probably wasn't that bad. Like, yeah, he nowhere near his own expectations. And
I think Kohli performed the way everyone expected him to perform.
not really. Like, he's never looked.
Did you perform? Did you soon like to absolutely bang and set the tournament alight? No, probably not.
Not though. Like, he's scored 1,000 runs or something before in IPL.
Yeah,
That's a different role though. That's just an opener.
Yeah, he's just not that good.
Different.
Always said so. But yeah, 3 players you'd retain. I've gone for Kohli, obviously captain. I've gone for Chahal. He's as I said, who is going to be the bowler that they're going to turn to when they're struggling? It was Chahal and Sundar, especially, who just bowled so well. I didn't see it coming, and that's been the key to RCB's success. Their bowling, which they've struggled with in the past. They've always had a batting lineup that can score runs, but their bowling has really pulled through for them this season. Fair play. This is going to be controversial. I think that's at the point where you don't retain De Villiers. Like, he's not going to be playing for much longer. You're looking for a player you're going to retain into the future and keep in your team. I've got the Patakal as the third retained player. I think it's certainly a controversial call. You could argue for Morris as well, but Indian opener, Patakal and Kohli could be an opening partnership in the future. They can bring in new internationals. I think you go for Patakal.
So I've gone with Kohli, Chahal, and De Villiers. Yep.
I was gonna do that, but then I actually agree with Will. It could. De Villiers might only have one more season.
Yep.
And like him and
Yeah,
Kohli.
but he's just too good to leave out. Like,
yeah, but
the output of De Villiers is the output of Patakal. Yeah, yes, Patakal had a great season, but De Villiers is a proven performer, and he scores at different rates. He can score. He can perform when teams collapsing. He can really ramp up the run rate. He's got everything, and he's a gun fielder.
But just looking
age-wise, they might look past him now.
And looking ahead to the future, like, De Villiers, I don't see him playing 2 more IPLs, really. He's already he's stopping playing Big Bash. He's stopping playing a lot of things. He's pretty close to retiring totally, I think. I think you keep Padikkal. I think next season Padikkal will be playing better than De Villiers anyway. He's pretty much as good this year, I would say. And they can keep him for the next 10 years. How old is Padikkal? I don't really know.
I think he's like.
I don't know if other teams will break the bank for Padikkal either.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you could easily retain him.
Mm.
Sorry, right to match.
Yeah, Padikkal is a year older than us.
Yeah. Anyway. So I also haven't gone for De Villiers even as a right to match. Very controversial.
Yep.
I've gone for Chris Morris. I think you keep him. Since he's come in, he was very good. His first few games when he started playing, he was winning games for them. And I've gone for Washington Sundar. He was the second best bowler. He's been a solid help to Jahal. I think that's the base that's been winning them games this year. I think that's what you keep.
Yeah, I've also gone Washington Sundar. I think he's very underrated. He's quite good opening the bowling. He might not get wickets, but he does a very good job for them. And then next player, probably De Villiers, but I don't know. I think they want to keep, even though their pace bowlers are amazing, they might want to keep like Navdeep Saini. I think
Raj?
over Siraj. I think he's more consistent than Siraj, and like he's better than Siraj, I think. And also because Saini is more involved with India. Kohli would probably prefer Saini. And
does anyone remember how much Gale went for? Oh, how much? It's not much, is it? Is it a lot?
It was
not much. He almost didn't get picked.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it might be the. Do you think it'll be the same case for De Villiers? If that's the case, then you'd swap Padikkal and De Villiers, and you'd try and look to right to match De Villiers because you won't be paying much for him.
I mean, you might be, but at the end of the day, in the future, I think you need Padikkal more. I wouldn't mind De Villiers over Morris. I'd understand that.
Yeah, that's the problem. I wouldn't have Washington Sundar. I think there's so many options like him.
There's
So I've gone with Morris and Padikkal as my right to match.
I just feel Saini doesn't get a lot of big wickets. He gets a lot of the tail. That's just my opinion on Saini. I think he's had not the best season. He's actually picked up loads of wickets, but he's not very high on my rankings at all.
I think he they need an Indian pace bowler, and they want him.
Yep. I mean, when Siraj decides to play well, God, he's good.
Yeah, that was weird though.
Yeah.
Imagine if he plays Test match.
I think definitely RCB will look to spend their money on bowlers, so they look to retain all their batsmen.
I think they want to beef up their batter.
Why?
Because they're only going to have Kohli and Padikkal, and they need a good international batsman.
Well, we'll see what is, I guess.
And
well, it depends who they retain.
Sundar, Chahal, they do that, and then one international there. Yeah, see what happens.
Yeah, I don't see them getting rid of Sundar, but in my opinion, there's so many options like Sundar.
I mean, they'll probably go for a new Australian batsman. They tried Stoinis last year, wasn't that good. They tried Finch this year, wasn't that good. Who are they going to go for next year?
They tried Philippe already as well.
Darcy Short in, maybe.
The thing is, Darcy Shaw and those sort of players, they're really good, and not going to cost much, so you could easily put. But it depends whether you want to use an international spot, I guess.
Khawaja.
Darcy Short. Shut up. What about Wade? Anyway.
Has he ever played IPL?
Probably.
Probably not.
Are we done with RCB? Everyone?
Yeah.
Finally, last team. Sunrisers Hyderabad. Been a very, very interesting season for Hyderabad. Looks at the beginning of the season, they were going just how we all expected. They were pretty disappointing. They weren't winning games. But out of nowhere, the Manish Pandey helping and this new bowling attack, Sandeep Sharma and Natarajan.
Natarajan is such a gun.
Very, very, very exciting. And just to start off Rising Star, I've gone for Natarajan for Hyderabad.
Yeah. 100%.
He's so good. He's actually so good.
I will say, I think Sandeep Sharma has had an excellent season.
What brings us to this Kohli?
Sandeep Sharma's done it before. If you look at his record and Kohli, it's amazing. Like he got them out like 4 times each, 5 times each, just like.
I
I
mean,
think overall Natarajan has done a way better job. That's just my
Sharma is
opinion.
very good. He was up there with a lot of the best Indian bowlers. But yeah, so because he's come out of nowhere, I've got another original.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same.
100, but it actually annoys me how good they were because I just thought they'd be so bad.
Yeah.
I thought they'd be like their mold of team reminds me of Punjab a bit.
Even weird as I did it so well with like getting rid of Bairstow. Like Williamson wasn't even that bad, like as a T20 player.
They just like they were able to score those 160s, which we didn't think would be enough, but they made it. They made the 160 enough. So it was really congrats to their bowling.
Is that a real disappointing player? Obvious disappointing player.
I mean, I've gone for Nabi. I think we all thought Nabi was going to be playing quite a bit this season. He hasn't really played much at all. I also couldn't really think of who else you'd go with here.
Yeah.
That's why you could maybe argue Shankar, but I've gone for Nabi. He's been such a good T20 player in the past. I was so surprised he wasn't getting in the team at times when they were bringing in Holder, but Holder proved he was good enough. Nabi mustn't have been doing enough in training, or they just didn't rate him enough to play him much.
With Nabi, in my opinion, like he was always going to be a toss-up between Nabi, Mitch Marsh, or like, and they swapped Mitch Marsh for Jason Holder, or Al Williamson as well, because if Bairstow players. So he's always like a borderline selection, even though like I think he's number 1 ranked all-rounder 2020s and like he's done well. But I don't think you're right. It's like it's hard to pick, but I'm actually gonna go with Priyam Garg. Under 19 captain, could have had a big role to play, but never really did anything except for like 150, average 14, which is not good at all. He's my disappointment.
I guess I just didn't expect that much from Garg, as opposed to some of the other under 19 players.
Sure.
But yeah, that's fair enough. Because there weren't that many disappointments at all anyway. 3 you'd keep.
And did Ryan say his disappointment?
That's why I need to do a little research. I was gonna say Johnny Bairstow, but looking at his stats, they're not bad.
He's been fine. He's had a solid.
Yeah. I don't really have an answer there. I think all the players have done okay. There hasn't been a real standout disappointing player, so I'm not going to pick one. I don't think.
So, who are the 3 players you guys are going to retain? I think 2 are obvious.
I think 2 are very obvious, right? Warner,
Rashid Khan, and those are your 2 internationals. So you have to choose an Indian player now.
Yep.
So, which Indian player would you choose? I'd say Manish Pandey. I think he's class, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I probably would go Manish Pandey.
Or Natarajan. Oh.
I still think
Pandey's not going to go for much though.
Bhuvneshwar Kumar is better than Natarajan, I still think.
I think the obvious one you guys are missing is Kumar.
What happened this year? Was he injured this year?
Played 1 game, he was really good, then got injured.
He's been injured a lot lately. It kind of ruined his career a little bit.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, he's maybe India's 2nd or 3rd best pace bowler in most formats.
Yeah.
I think Booby is the obvious third one over Pandey. Pandey's probably a bit old. You can get replacements. They need to rebuild the middle order for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Pandey's probably not going to be that expensive.
I think you keep Kumar over Natarajan as well. Natarajan's only actually had 1 good half a season. Like he's nowhere near as proven as Booby.
Yep, fair enough.
I was just thinking before, it's kind of weird because they have like a couple other players who could have been like Natarajan, right? Like Khalil Ahmed.
Yep.
And then Siddharth Kaur. Remember when he was meant to be that good?
Yeah. Now I swear he's old now.
Like to replace someone like that, it's not that hard. I feel like.
So yeah, my 2 right to matches. I've gone for Bairstow. I think they would try and keep Bairstow. He's been good enough for them. And I have gone for Pandey. Looking back, I'm actually thinking I might change that to Natarajan. I think Natarajan's been really good. But at the end of the day, Pandey's done a lot for their middle order, which we thought was going to be a huge problem for them. I think there's still an argument for keeping Pandey.
I was not going to go. Do I go with Bairstow? I'd say Williamson's better than Bairstow. just because you need that experience in the middle order, and it's really hard to find that. But arguably, you could say Williamson could have a season like Steve Smith did this year.
I was just thinking, how come Ross Taylor hasn't played a lot recently, IPL? He's like in the same bracket as those guys, like even more explosive. That's another topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I'd probably go with Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, but if I was looking back in hindsight, I would have picked Bhuvi in my retained picks and right to Manish Pandey, because Manish Pandey wouldn't be that much compared to Bhuvi.
Yeah, so I chose to retain Kumar, so then I'll match Pandey. And the last one is hard. I even thought, this kind of random, I thought about Abdul Samad, just because I thought he was a decent, like, sort of explosive finisher. He's meant to bowl a bit better than he did as well. But the thing is, there's obviously a lot of spinning all-rounders like that out there.
What has Samad actually done this IPL?
Finished off a couple of games. He looked okay. There's a lot of hype for him. I know that. Because the rest of the Indian players are all kind of like okay, but like they don't perform a lot. I don't know.
11 runs, 3
I
innings.
guess I'll go Bairstow, but I doubt they'll actually do it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Samad had one good finish. That was about it. And was that in the?
I think there's a time when they collapsed, and then Garg and Samad come up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. So any other thoughts about Hyderabad?
No, I think they performed to our expectations this season, more or less. But I feel like we say that for every team because there was 2 points, 2 points between third and eighth.
Yep.
So we could say that arguably Hyderabad deserved to be lower, probably, would say.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, I think we're pretty much good to wrap this up now.
I was just going to say one more thing though. What do you guys actually think about not just one but 2 new teams?
Like the format of the tournament?
The reason they have a mega option, right, is if there's a new team.
Yep.
And like, what do you think of that even happening now?
Well, I don't like the fact that they're messing with the 8-team system. I think that's worked pretty well.
On one hand, it's a proven format. It's worked so well. It's always worked. But at the same time, if there's any T20 league that you could expand, it would be the IPL, because there's so much Indian talent around, and there's just so many more internationals that are available.
Good enough to play.
Yeah. So I'm undecided on whether I think they should expand yet. I'm not sure it's that necessary. But there's some merit to the idea.
Yeah, it's okay, but at times you feel like it drags on a bit anyway right now.
Yeah, I mean, they could certainly make it a shorter season, 10 teams, maybe have like a 12-match season or something. I don't know.
I wouldn't be totally against it, but they don't need to do it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we can wrap this up now. It's been a long episode, certainly. And next IPL, I mean, the auction will be in 3 months? It's starting in April.
January even.
January, it's crazy. So yeah, we're gonna finish up this episode. Been a long IPL review. Our next episode is going to be on the Indian T20 squad. So look forward to that. And who we think we should be selected for the upcoming Australia India series, which is very exciting, I think. But thanks everyone for watching. Feel sure to follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the channel, and thanks.